Good morning, grade 8. I hope you're all fine and well this morning and that you've got a good night's rest. Welcome to today's lesson. You will see the topic is all about the trial balance that we're going to look at. So we're going to be doing a little bit of accounting today. But let's start by greeting each other just in the box. Right, as I said, today's lesson is about the trial balance. First, let's see what is the definition. What is a trial balance? They say a trial balance is a list of all the general ledger accounts contained in the ledger of a business. So remember, we have done before the general ledger, the T accounts, and basically a trial balance is a list of all those accounts or a summary of all those accounts. This list will contain the name of each nominal ledger account and the value of that nominal ledger balance. So basically, you're going to write the name of each of that general ledger accounts, and an amount will be involved. Each nominal ledger account will hold either a debit balance or a credit balance. So the amount is either going to be written on the debit side or on the credit side. And then I've put there a picture, an example of how a completed trial balance is going to look at. So if you look there, the first column that is saying particulars, that is basically all the accounts from the general ledger, the T accounts, all their names. And then you will see that you have two amount columns. You have a debit column and a credit column. And we will look now, when are you going to write the amount in the debit column? And when are you going to write the amount in the credit column? Right, so for a start, what is a trial balance? It is a list of all the general ledger accounts, okay, and then you're going to write the amount in, and it's either going to have a debit or a credit balance. Right. Just again, I've actually said it already, but to look at the format of the trial balance, like I've said, the first column is your accounts, your T accounts and their names. And then you have two amount columns, a debit column and a credit column, where you're going to put the amounts in. And with that example in front of you, you can see sometimes the amount is in the debit column, sometimes it's in the credit column. We are still going to look when it will be in the debit or on the credit side. So if we just look overall in basic to this example, then we notice we have accounts like vehicles, land and buildings, bank, stationery, rent income, wages, capital, and services rendered. Right, and as I said, we will get to when the amount will be in the debit or credit column. But what is important for me to see now is, after you have done the whole trial balance, you need to add up the two amount columns. So that means you need to add up the debit column, okay, and you get a total. You will see there's a question mark. You're going to get a total there. And then you do the same with the credit column. You add up everything and you get a total at the bottom. There's another question mark there. What is important is those two question marks, those two totals must be exactly the same amount. It must be the same amount. If it is not the same amount, then you know you're going to have a mistake somewhere. Either you have written in the wrong amount, or maybe you have written it on the wrong side. So very important is when you have entered all the T accounts from the general ledger into the trial balance with the amounts on the correct side, you need to add up the two columns. The totals that you get at the bottom must be the same. If it is not the same, then it means that you have made a mistake somewhere. Right, now what I've done here on this slide is I've just given you a few general ledger T accounts. Okay, so if we work through them, and then on the next slide, we're going to enter it into a trial balance. But let's just look first at the general ledger accounts. Okay, the first one that you guys see there is bank. And remember, we have said when we have done the general ledger accounts that bank can have entries on the debit and credit side. Okay, so you're going to see how we're going to handle that one. Okay, then vehicles, there is an entry on the debit side of 30,000. Can you see it is on the debit side? So that means you're going to debit vehicles in the trial balance. The same with water and electricity of 1,800 Rand. The entry is on the debit side. With rent income, there's an entry of 10,000 Rand. It's on the credit side. And drawings have an entry of 500 Rand on the debit side. So all the accounts here from the general ledger, you can already see if it's on the debit or the credit side. So that is indicating to you on which side with the trial balance you're going to write it in. It's only bank that will be a problem because there is going to be entries on both sides, but we're going to see how you're going to handle it now. Right, so before I will come back now to this slide, just again, regarding if you're going to do this trial balance, okay, this is quite a very short one, but I just basically want to give you an idea of how you need to do it. So again, you will see there are 3 columns, okay, for the format of the trial balance. The first column is you're going to write all the names of the accounts in, and then there are the 2 amount columns, debit and credit. Let's just look, or let's take the first one, bank, okay? Bank, you see there is an entry on the debit side of 127,700. Okay, now let me go back so you can see where it is coming from. Remember, I said bank is the strange one because it's having entries on both sides. So what you need to do with bank is you need to add up the debit side. That means that 10,000 and 150,000. And then you need to subtract the credit side. So minus the 30,000, minus the 1,800, and minus the 500 Rand. And then the difference that you're going to get, okay, the difference that you're going to get between the 2 sides, that will go to your trial balance, and that is that 127,700. And normally, bank is going to have a debit balance. It can have a credit balance, but at this stage that you guys are on, you will normally get a debit balance for bank. Okay. Right, let me just go through all of them and then we can recap again. So vehicles, for instance, vehicles, you will see on the debit side, there's 30,000 Rand. So let's see where it's coming from. Okay, look at vehicles, the T account, the general ledger account, and then you see there's the 30,000 Rand, and on which side is the entry? On the debit side. So therefore, you're going to write it in the trial balance on the debit side. If we look at water and electricity, 1,800, you will see the entry is on the debit side. Let's go and check. From the general ledger, there you can see the T account. There's the entry of 1,800 Rand on the debit side. So that means you also need to write it in the debit column with the trial balance. Rent income, 10,000 Rand. Okay, this one you guys can see is on the credit side, hey? Okay, so let's see where it's coming from. Look at your rent income general ledger account. There's an entry of 10,000 Rand. It's on the credit side. So therefore, in the trial balance, you also need to put it in the credit column. Drawings, 500 Rand on the debit side. Okay, let's go and check. Your T account for drawings, there is the entry of 500 Rand on the debit side. So when you're going to do the trial balance, then you also need to put the amount, the 500 Rand in on the debit side. Right, so you can see all the accounts are actually very easy because what is going to happen in an activity or in an exam, for instance, they're going to give you a lot of general ledger accounts, okay? And then they're going to ask you to complete the trial balance. So you just every time write the name of the account, you take the amount, and if it is in the general ledger on the debit side, then you put it in the debit column of the trial balance. If the amount is on the credit side of the general ledger, then you put it in the credit column of the trial balance. The only problem that you have at this stage is bank, because bank is having entries on both sides. So how do you work with bank? You take your debit side, you add it up, you minus your credit side, the difference that you're going to get, that will go towards the trial balance, and that will be, as I said, on this stage, definitely always on the debit side. Right. Okay, I didn't do it here because this was just an example how to enter it, but you are supposed to remember to add up the two amount columns. So take debit, you add it up, get a total at the bottom, and you do the same with the credit side. Okay, this one is not going to be exactly the same because I've just taken some amounts, okay, to give you an idea, but remember it's supposed to be, the totals must be the same at the end of the day. Right. I'm going to give you an exercise. I hope you're sitting ready with pen and paper. I'm going to give you a few minutes so you guys can do this one. I've just made it a little bit, otherwise I didn't give you the general ledger accounts here. So let's first work through this page, and then on the next page, the trial balance is there, but you're first going to try it by yourself. So let's see. They say the following transactions took place at the premises of Two Beautiful Nursery. Then you will see I give you every time the date, I give you a source document, and I give you a transaction. Okay, so instead of the general ledger account, I've made it a little bit difficult to this one because I've just given you a transaction. Now, right, the amount you will get from the transaction, but also from the transaction, you will get the idea of what the account is going to be. I will do the first one with you guys now. And then what is going to be difficult is you need to understand also now, in which column are you going to write the amount in? Is it going to be in the debit column or in the credit column? And if you're not sure, maybe go back to Lady Adela that we have done, because Lady Adela can also help you guys here. But let's look at the first one. I will do that one with you. Okay, the date is the 1st of August, receipts 01, but that's not important. The owner, P. Azalia, makes a cash contribution to the business of 40,000. Right, so we have the amount, 40,000. What is this transaction all about? It's a capital transaction, okay? Now get a picture in your head of what is happening. Capital is always on the credit side. Think of Lady Adelaide, capital is on the credit side. So if you're going to enter it in the trial balance, you're going to write capital, 40,000 Rand, credit side. I'm quickly going to give you a peek, okay? So quickly, watch. There you got it. Capital, credit side, 40,000 Rand. Right. Now, you are all on your own now. So now you do the rest. So you're going to complete the trial balance for me. Taking the amount every time from the transaction, decide which account it is, and decide in which column the amount must be. All right, so this is going to take you maybe a while, so I'm going to give you a few minutes for this. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat box. Right, people, if you are done, you can do what Natalie has done, and she indicated to me in the box that she is done. So that will be good if some more people can indicate to me when you are finished. I will give another minute or two for those people that's still busy. Right, so we're going to start marking the exercise now. Okay, let me just repeat the first one again. The owner P. Azalia makes a cash contribution to the business of 40,000. So your amount is 40,000. It is a capital transaction. If you need to know by now, capital is always on the credit side. If you're not sure, make use of Lady Adelec that you know by now. So that means in the trial balance, you're going to write with accounts, you're going to write capital and the amount 40,000 rand in the credit column. Right, next one. Okay, I'm not going to repeat every time the date and the source document because this is not really necessary. So with the transaction, the business buys trading stock from Big Tree wholesalers to the value of 2,500 Rand. So it's about trading stock. Okay, trading stock is an asset. So think of Lady Adelec. Assets must also be on the debit side, and it is 2,500 Rand. Okay, you will see what I've done here is I've put it in brackets next to the account because there is more trading stock that is going to follow in the rest of the exercise. Okay, so 2,000 Rand, I've put it in brackets, but yes, it is supposed to be in the debit column. Right, the next one, services rendered for 3,000 Rand. So it's a services rendered transaction. That is your account as well. The amount 3,000 Rand. Services rendered is an income. Think of Lady Adelec. Income is falling on the credit side. So the credit side, 3,000 Rand for services rendered. I've done the same here. I've put the 3,000 in brackets because there is more services rendered transactions that's going to follow. But at the end of the day, the amount should be in the credit column. Okay, the next one is now on the 4th of August. The business buys trading stock from Alancians to the value of 8,000 Rand. So again, it's a trading stock transaction. 8,000 Rand. Trading stock is an asset. Assets is on the debit side. Okay, so we have trading stock. We have trading stock. So you will see the in brackets. I've just added the 8,000 Rand, but it is supposed to be in the debit column because trading stock is an asset. An asset is always on the debit side. The next transaction. We are there on the first one on the 5th. Write out a check to pay rental, 6,000 Rand. So you need to pay the rent. So it's a rent expense transaction of 6,000 Rand. Rent expense is an expense. Expenses must always be on the debit side. So remember, rent expense, debit side, 6,000 Rand. Right, in the trial balance, there is rent expense, 6,000 Rand, debit side, because the rent expense is an expense, and expenses must always be on the debit side. Think of Lady Adelec. Next one, write out the check as a donation to Greenpeace, 500 Rand. So your transactions all about, donations, 500 Rand. Donations is going to be seen as an expense, and we already said with the previous one, expenses is always on the debit side. So remember, donations, 500 Rand on the debit side. So there you see it. The next one, services rendered, 5,550. So it's again a services rendered transaction. It's an income. Income is always on the credit side. The amount 5,550. We already have services rendered. So you guys will see the in brackets, I've added the 5,550. But let's say it was the only amount, then it will be in the credit column because it's an income, and income is always on the credit side. Okay, the next one is there on the 10th of August. The business buys trading stock from Big Tree wholesalers to the value of 15,000. So it's again a trading stock transaction. The amount is 15,000. Trading stock is an asset. Assets is always on the debit side. We already, remember 15,000, we already have trading stock in our trial balance. So you guys will see I have just added there in brackets the 15,000. All right, the next one on the 12th, buys consumables to the value of 1,500 Rand from KitKat stores. So it's consumables. The amount is 1,500 Rand. Let's see how you're going to enter it into the trial balance. And there you will see under donations, consumables, 1,500 Rand on the debit side. Because you buy those consumables, they will be seen as an asset. Assets is always on the debit side. Okay, the next one, there on the 15th, receives rental from Seeds or Us for the use of the storeroom, 2,500 Rand. So you receive rent, so therefore it's now rent income. Okay, you receive rent, therefore rent income of 2,500 Rand. Rent income is an income. Income is always on the credit side. So rent income on the credit side, 2,500 Rand, because it's an income, and income are always on the credit side. Okay, the next one is a services rendered one of 7,500 Rand. We already have a services rendered, so we're just going to add in brackets the 7,500. All right, and you guys will see, for instance, with services rendered, you will see that is the last services rendered transaction. So now you can add it up and you can put the total now in the credit column. Just again, why in the credit column? Because services rendered is an income. Income is always on the credit side. Then there on the 20th, P. Azalia takes 2,500 Rand drawings to pay his car repairs. So it is a drawings transaction, 2,500 Rand. Remember, drawings is always on the debit side. Think again of Lady Ada Lick. All right, so on the debit side for drawings, 2,500 Rand. Okay, the next one, buys trading stock from Valencians to the value of 15,000. So it's again trading stock. We have trading stock, so we're just going to add the 50,000 Rand in brackets. And you will see now that was the last trading stock transaction. So we have add up everything in brackets. The total you're going to write in the debit column. Why debit column? Because trading stock is an asset. Next one pays the salary of Betty Bloom, 6,000 Rand. So it's about salary, 6,000 Rand. Salaries is an expense. Expenses is always on the debit side. All right, salaries, 6,000 Rand on the debit side because salaries is an expense. Right, second last one pays the water and electricity, 1,200 Rand to Ekurhuleni Metro. Right, so it's about water and electricity, 1,200 Rand. Water and electricity is an expense, therefore it must be on the debit side. Sorry guys, I'm pressing the hold on the wrong button. And then the last one there, pays the telephone account, 350 Rand to Telkom. So it's telephone, 350. Telephone is an expense, therefore also on the debit side. Telephone, 350 Rand. Okay, and then you guys have noticed what I've done. I add up the debit column, get a total of 62,000. I've done the same on the credit side, add up, get a total of 62,000. What is important to see, both of these totals are exactly the same. Then you know you are correct. If it is not the same, then you have a mistake somewhere. Either your amount is wrong, or maybe you have put the amount on the wrong side. Right, so that is overall what the trial balance is going to be about. I'm just going to stick 1 or 2 more seconds on this slide if somebody is still busy marking. Right, and again, I'm just going quickly revise about today's work. So I'm just going quickly back. Right, our topic was the trial balance. What is the trial balance? It's a list of all the general ledger accounts, or even you can do directly like you have done in the activity from transactions. You need to have the amounts, you need to have to know what is the accounts involved, and you need to know in which column you're going to write the amount, either in the debit or on the credit side. Same with the format, okay, but there you see again, just again, remember also part of the format, when you're done with the trial balance, add up the debit column, get a total. Add up the credit column, get a total at the bottom. They should be the same. And also, people, if you're not sure on which side to write the amount, as I said, okay, if it's general ledger accounts, it's quite easy because then they will give you an indication on which side it is, except for bank. Bank, you need to take the debit side minus the credit side, and the difference is what you're going to write in the trial balance. But if it was a little bit more difficult, like for instance, the activity that you have done, where you do it directly from the transactions, just work on Lady Adelec, and Lady Adelec will help you there. Right, people, that's it for today. Okay, any questions? I will look in the box. Okay, doesn't look like that. Okay, people, thank you very much for today. And then I will see you guys tomorrow morning again. Okay, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.